Namaste and welcome back to Vision Economics Academy. This is Sir Shivankar and today we'll be covering a very important topic, that is aggregate demand and related concept from macroeconomics theory. This chapter is very important from the CBSE board's perspective. This chapter has to be understood with the concept, and for that reason it makes it very special. It's highly conceptual, and at the same time, if one understands the concept, it gets a lot easier. And for that reason only, I have divided this chapter into many parts, and I'll be covering this chapter very slowly. I hope it helps you all. So without further ado, I will start the chapter, that is aggregate demand and related concepts. Now, before I start, I would like you all to request to please like, subscribe and share this video as much as possible. Right? Now, you might have heard about the word demand in your 11th standard. So it's no different here. What is changed here is the front part, that is the aggregate. Now, you have all heard about demand, right? Now, demand, we studied about individual demand and market demand. Those are all microeconomic phenomenon. But when we are talking about macro level, we are talking about aggregate demand. Yes, aggregate of all. Now, aggregate demand. What is aggregate demand? Aggregate demand is the total value of final goods and services which all the sectors of an economy are planning to buy at a given level of income during a period of one accounting year. So that this is a flow concept. Now, what do you understand from here is that aggregate demand shows, the total value, or aggregate demand means the total value of all the final goods and services which is being planned by all the sectors in the economy, all the sectors, primary, secondary, tertiary, at a given level of income during a period of one accounting year. Now, whenever we are talking about aggregate demand, aggregate supply, in this chapter we will be talking we will be only talking about actually ex ante. That means planned. So we're talking about planned demand, planned aggregate demand, right? So once again, what is aggregate demand? Aggregate demand is the total value of all the goods and services that is being planned, right? That is being planned to buy by all the sectors of an economy put together, given the level of income during one accounting year. So it's a flow concept. All right. Now, when we covered the the expenditure method from national income method, there was a formula like C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Right? As the expenditure suggests that we are consuming. Right? When do we consume? When we demand. Right? So it's all related. So in the same way, the formula for this, or the component of aggregate demand, is also same. Now, when we are demanding, we are planning to consume. Right? So first of all, C means private household consumption expenditure. I means investment expenditure. G means government expenditure. And X minus M is net exports. Now, what are each of these? I will explain each of this, right? But these are the components of aggregate demand. All right. So I'll be explaining each of this one by one. Let's go to private household consumption expenditure, or C. Right? So It refers to the total expenditure incurred by the household on the purchase of good and service during an accounting year. So what are household? Households are all the common people, all the units of the families, right? Who consume, who save. Those are the households. We all know what households are, right? Now, all the expenditure incurred by the household while purchasing the goods and services during an accounting year is what private household consumption expenditure is, right? So consumption expenditure is directly influenced by the disposable income. Now, what is disposable income? Disposable income refers to the income which is available to the household for spending, for consuming, spending or saving, right? They spend through on consuming, consumption, and the rest they save, right? So that is disposable income. Disposable income is one that is in hand so that you can dispose, right? That is in hand for your consumption. So disposable income, you with that disposable income you either save or you either consume, you spend through consumption, right? So that is what private household consumption expenditure is. Now the investment expenditure refers to the total expenditure incurred by all the private firms on capital goods. So whatever expenditure is being made, whatever investment is being made for capital addition in the capital stock, right? That is investment expenditure. It is done by all the private firms. All right. So it adds to the stock of physical capital assets such as machinery, equipments, buildings, etc., and the change in inventory. Now, the government expenditure. Government has two roles. One is of of a consumer, and one is of a producer also. From the consumer per se, government spends, as well as invests, right? So consumption expenditure, the government does the consumption expenditure to meet the public needs, like to maintain the law and order. It's purely based on the social welfare, education, health, transport, defense, etc. So government acts as a consumer, right, and spends on consumption of all these things that are required for the public. Then comes the investment expenditure. Government also acts like producer, and government have their industries. Government constructs the highways. Government constructs the power plants, roads, etc. Right, and so they make expenditure in that. So that is basically the role of the government. So this is the third component, and the fourth component is net exports. That is export minus imports. Export means there is a demand for our domestic goods produced in our country abroad, and import means what we are demanding produced in abroad, right? So the value of goods that we export minus the value of goods that we import gives us the net exports. So exports indicate demand for goods produced within the domestic territory of the country by the rest of the world, when rest of the world demands the goods that is produced within the domestic territory of your particular country. Now, and the import refers to the demand of the residents of a country for the goods that has been produced abroad. Okay, so the difference between these makes it net exports. However, there are four sectors, but we'll be dealing with the two sectors here for the simplicity's sake, and we consider it as to be the closed economy, where we do not consider the government also, and we are not considering the net exports. So we are only considering the two components, that is aggregate demand equals to consumption plus investment. Now what is investment? Now investment, I've already explained you, but what we are assuming here is that the investment remains constant. So it is autonomous, and aggregate demand is the two components of aggregate demand is C plus I, or AD equals to C plus I. C plus I makes up aggregate demand, right? C for consumption, I for investment. Now, let us go to diagrammatic representation of aggregate demand. So before that, we'll make a schedule. Income, I'm representing it with Y, 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 and 600. Okay, consumption. So as we know, if we are not doing any, if we are not earning, but still we need to consume, right, as an individual level. Even in economy, if there is no income, or if there is deficit, but still we need to consume for the development or for just sustainability. So with that note, suppose let's say a person has zero income, but still that person will consume, right? And if the income increases up to 10,000, we'll be consuming most part of it, or even more than that, right? And when our income increases further, then our consumption will also increase, but it will not increase at the same rate. So the same thing is being showed in this schedule, is that first at zero level of income, consumption is 40, and at 100 there is 120, at 200 200, at 300 280 will increase it, and 360 and 440 and 520 we are increasing by 80 each. Okay, let's say. Now investment, as I've already said, that we are taking it is to be constant or autonomous, 20 20 20 20, okay, throughout. Now aggregate demand we know is the C plus I, right? So 40 plus 20 is 60, 140, 220, 300, 380, 460 and 540. So this is the aggregate demand. Now this is the origin. This y-axis representing aggregate demand, is the x-axis representing income. Okay, now at zero income there is consumption of, these are all given in crores, so 40 crores consumption is there. Okay, so let us start here the consumption curve. Okay, right? So this is autonomous consumption, investment is constant. So let us make here, let us give R, S over here. Now this part S2O is seen as, that is autonomous consumption. That is autonomous matlab this consumption is not dependent on the income. Irrespective of zero income, there is still consumption, so it's autonomous, it's independent of this income, right? And so this part is the autonomous consumption. Here this is investment, which is being constant throughout, so it's a parallel to x-axis. Now we know that aggregate demand is C plus I, so we are adding C plus I. So exactly the distance between this we have to make here, because we are just adding I in C. Okay, so sorry, aggregate demand, we are adding C plus I. All right, now let's give this point T. Now the gap between these two will be same, as the difference between aggregate demand and consumption curve is I only, right? That is investment, autonomous investment. All right, so there are a few points that we need to note about aggregate demand. You can take a screenshot of it, or if you have understood it, we can move forward. that is important points about aggregate demand. There are some points that we have to note, especially aggregate demand is the summation of C plus I, that is consumption and investment, right? And there is positive consumption. There is positive consumption even at zero level of income, right? So that is the autonomous consumption, right? So people do need the basic goods for their sustenance. So that is the reason why even at zero level of income, there will be positive consumption. That's very rational. The slope of the consumption curve is positive. Why? Because there is a positive relation. As your income increases, your consumption is also increasing. Even though your consumption would not be increasing at the same rate, but still it's increasing. So there is a positive relationship, right? The slope of investment curve is parallel to x-axis, a straight line parallel to x-axis, because of the constant nature of investment that we have assumed. And starting point, AD curve starts from the point OS or S at the point T. Aggregate demand starts at the point T. Aggregate demand curve or C plus I starts at T, not from the origin, because of autonomous consumption and investment, right? And slope of aggregate demand curve is also positive sloping, as aggregate demand is the addition of C and I, right? And the C keeps on increasing as the income increases. So there is a positive relation. So these are some of the points that we need to remember about aggregate demand. So different types of question do come. Sometimes direct question do not come. It tests your competency by asking it indirectly. Sometimes statement can be given and you have to write whether the statement is correct or not with reasons. So this particular portion helps in those kind of questions where you are asked or where you are given a statement and you have to say that whether it's a right statement or wrong, and the reason also. Alright, so basically if you know the schedule and the diagram, we pretty much know what all these are. Aggregate demand is positive sloping, consumption curve is positive sloping, autonomous investment is a straight line parallel to x-axis, what is represented by y-axis, what is represented by x-axis. All these are very easy. Now if you know this, you will know each and everything about these points. These are very easy points to remember or to understand. Okay, so for this class it's this much only, and as I've already told you that I have divided this chapter into many parts, so I'll be covering this chapter very slowly for the benefit of all. So that's all for today, and we'll meet in the next episode where I will be continuing with aggregate supply or the income curve, right? So till then, be safe. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel. And this is Shivankar sir signing off.